So we have this concept as sound engineers, and I hope now we start to think ourselves as musicians, but we have this idea that less, in fact, is more. And the best work you will ever do is when you've got a small group of great musicians that are making space for each other. In a scenario where you're being presented with, and it's out of your control, a band that have got 10 vocalists and 3 guitarists and 5 keyboard players and 2 drummers. In this scenario, you have to adopt what I'm going to call sacrificial mixing. You're going to have to keep the main thing the main thing. In your mind, you're going to have to listen to this and decide what is the key message that you want to deliver and deliver that. Choose who you think the pivotal individuals are in this mix and make sure they are heard above all else. In that situation, you will find that you will have the illusion of a large band, but with the definition of a small one. Remember, if you're in church and we're involved in worship, then the vocals of what's being sung is probably the most important thing. We would call this a money channel. The money channel is the thing that you must make sure is heard above all other things. So if you detect in the mix that something is going on which is competing with that vocal, it's really important that you reduce that in level. And when you get the opportunity, talk to the musicians, talk to the worship leader, and suggest that maybe there is something that could be improved in the arrangement. Remember, the things that you can do that change the environment of the stage will always outweigh your ability to change a few faders. While we're talking about the subject of money channels, if you're ever put into a very large festival situation where you've got to mix a band in front of 20,000 people and you're going to get the amount of time to sound check will be the 3 or 4 hits that the drummer clicks the band in with, you better have a very strong vision of what you're going to mix first. What makes contemporary music work? And I would suggest to you it's this. Number 1, the vocal line, because this is worship. Number 2, the kick drum, because we want people to feel some energy. Number 3, the snare drum, because it's delivering the main part of the rhythm. Number 4, the bass guitar. If you've got those things working, kick drum, snare drum, bass guitar and a vocal, then people will dance. So we've discussed the essential money channels of the vocal line, the kick drum, the snare drum and the bass guitar. So what would you prioritize next when you're fighting for vision? Well, there is going to be a worship leader, and the worship leader is likely to be playing an instrument. It might be keyboards, it might be acoustic guitar. So I would be suggesting that you're steering your mix to featuring that instrument next, because it's probably also the instrument that the rest of the musicians are relying on for their own confidence and their own sense of the song. Now we have this idea of acoustic guitar and hi-hats, which can often be occupying the same space. A nice acoustic guitar sound often has that top-end sparkle that a hi-hat would have also, and you have to be very careful how you place those in the mix. I don't like this thing I will call invisible hi-hats. This is where I'm seeing a drummer play on the hi-hat, but I'm not hearing it in the mix, and I call that invisible hi-hat syndrome. I don't like to hear that, but also I don't want to hear a drum sound which is completely dominated by hi-hat. This kick, snare, hats, these are the 3 instruments that the drummer is spending most of their time on, and they need to all be in context together. This acoustic guitar thing that we're talking about is delivering this rhythmic sense, this bright rhythmic sense that's running through the whole song. But you do need to make sure that you don't overemphasize it. It should be something that when you concentrate on it, it's obvious to you that it's there, but when you're not concentrating on it, it's almost like it's not dominating your perception.